Welcome to Beyond the Blacktop podcast, where we dive into all things off-highway vehicles. I'm Kevin Schmidt, and here with me, as always, is Paul Hart. Paul, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
With us also today is Josh Bernatus with the Off-Highway Vehicles Division of California State Parks. And Nick, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey guys, my name is Nick Myers. I work for the U.S. Forest Service as the Mount Shasta Wilderness Program Manager and Director of the Mount Shasta Avalanche Center.
And Josh.
Yeah, Joshua Bernatus. I work at the OHV Division Office. I oversee the Winter Recreation Program.
Sweet. So, if you can't tell, today's episode is going to be kind of anything and everything off-highway vehicles and snow. We're going to talk about avalanche safety. We're going to talk all about different ways you can get out and go recreate, places to go recreate, all those kind of fun things. But as always, first, we got to start with the off-highway vehicle news with Edition on the Dirt. First things first is, since our last episode, a couple people passed away. It's kind of old news at this point, but Malcolm Smith and Motorcycle Mary both passed. Thoughts go out to their families and all that. I know they were kind of a bigger part of Paul's kind of scope.
Yeah, I mean, they were both pioneers of off-road motorsports. Malcolm Smith, probably more famous for a lot of the desert racing he's done. But Motorcycle Mary as well, she was the first person, I should say, to ever Ironman the Baja 500 back in 1975. So two legends of the sport that paved the way for a lot of us racers and riders now. Thoughts go out to the families and done a lot of good things for the sport for sure.
Definitely. We also, this episode, have kind of is it a happy update? Is it an excited update? Red stickers. There is a new bulletin that I'm going to read out, and then we'll kind of go in and explain what it means. But effective January 1st, 2025, off-road motorcycles and ATVs previously registered pursuant to California Code of Regulations, Title 13, Section 2415, are now permitted to operate year-round in public areas designated for OHV use. Beginning January 1st, 2025, red sticker and green sticker registration are equally valid year-round in all public areas designated for off-highway vehicle recreation. DMV continues to issue red sticker registrations for model year 2022 and newer. So, what does this mean? Essentially, until further notice, law enforcement will treat all off-highway motor vehicles with current red sticker registrations as valid, regardless of your model year. Meaning that you don't have to worry about whether or not your bike is grandfathered in or not, so long as the registration matches the vehicle identification number. So as long as you have a legally registered motorcycle, you're now good to ride year-round.
Woohoo! Yeah, I think it's huge for the sport, for those people, those competition bikes. Essentially now, exactly what Kevin said, you can get that bike registered. It may be a trip to the DMV and back to the shop you bought it from, but there'll be more updates out in the future if there's any hangups with that. And essentially, it's given people, I shouldn't say a pass, but you can ride year-round now with those red sticker bikes. Additionally, you're going to be able to use competition motorcycles on public lands. So it's a win for the sport. And with law enforcement, it also helps for those motorcycles that didn't have registration. You're going to be able to run a VIN check and make sure that bike's not stolen. I mean, we all know that bikes get stolen, so having a bike registered with the DMV helps with some of those types of issues as well. So it's a huge win for us that ride motorcycles and all competition types of vehicles.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate that this is until further notice. We are just waiting for more information to be coming out about this because obviously the red sticker stuff has kind of been all over the place since, 2016?
It has been, yeah.
It's I mean, the program when it was designed back in 2004 was supposed to be temporary and then wasn't temporary anymore, and now kind of went back to that, and now all this has happened. But at least for the time being, go ahead. As long as you've got a legal registration on your bike, go ride you can ride on public lands. Just make sure that you're doing everything right. You're riding in the right places. You're not, doing anything too dumb.
Exactly.
All right. Paul, what events are going on?
Well, it is that time of year. Spring season has started back up. We're going to be covering events happening in March. So as other episodes, I'll start kind of in the north with just District 36. That's a sanctioning body with the American Motorcyclist Association. So we have District 36 in the north, District 37 in central, and District 38 in Southern California. For District 36, we're starting out March 5th, Elevated Action Sports Hill Climb out at Carnegie SVRA. So for you people out there, if you've never seen a hill climb, I recommend you go watch.
Oh, yeah, definitely go watch. It's awesome.
It's a good time. I used to do competition hill climb, won a couple of state championships way back in the day, 20 years ago, District 17 and 15. But I tell you what, it's a good time. So get out there and check that out. On the 8th and 9th of March, we're having the Yuba River Hare Scramble at East Street in Marysville. On the 22nd and 23rd, we're having the Phantom Hare Scramble out at Hollister Hills, SVRA. And on the 29th and 30th, we're having a Wilseyville Sprint Enduro, and that's out of Wilseyville. For the D36 events, those are all motorcycle-only events. But as we move south, we start to see some ATV and UTV type of events with these types of races. So in the central to south in District 37, March 1st and 2nd, we have the Prairie Dogs MC Grand Prix, and that's out at Glen Helen Raceway, and that's a moto-only event. March 8 and 9, we have the dual Euro Desert Scrambles out at Johnson Valley, and that's going to be open to motos and quads. March 15th, we have the Gold Rush Sprint Enduro, and that's out at Spangler Hills, and that's a moto-only event. March 22nd and 23rd, we have the Dirt Diggers Dual Euro Desert Scrambles, and again, that's at Spangler Hills, moto and quad only. The 29th and 30th, we have the Alien Dog Run, and that's a hare and hound, and that's going to be at Spangler Hills, and that's going to be open to motos and quads. As we move further south, we're going to get into where we have a little bit of UTV type of racing, so hang tight for that. And District 38, March 1st, we have King of the Desert. It's a desert scramble. It's at Superstition OHV, and that's going to be open to everybody, open to motorcycles, ATVs, and UTVs. On March 29th, we have the Speed Limit 100. That's a desert scramble. It's at Plaster City East, and that's going to be open to motorcycles, ATVs, and UTVs. So as you can see, race season's full swing. There's a little bit of stuff for everybody. And this doesn't count the stuff that's happening in Nevada and Arizona nearby. So there's lots of races happening, this time of the year in March. That's all I've got for events, Kevin. I'm sure I missed some. And some of those dates may change due to rain, rain cancellations or who knows. But that's the most current, up-to-date info I have for races.
Yeah, and if just as an aside, if you've never been out to the Superstition OHV area, that is a really cool off-highway vehicle area down south that you should definitely go check out. Lots of trails, wide variety of terrain for all skill levels. Even if you're not going to view the race, definitely a place to go check out. We are now going to move into our main story for the day, wide for all skill levels, which is just anything and everything snow. So first of all, Josh, what is the program that you help manage?
So I help manage the winter recreation program that encompasses mostly snow play. We have 18 snow parks throughout the state, up north of Tahoe area, Yuba Pass, all the way down to Huntington Lake, and that's on the valley side, and then we have one Rock Creek south of Mammoth.
Okay. And what are you able to do at these snow parks?
The snow parks are safe spots in the road, so they're plowed by Caltrans. They're wide spots that have safe parking and a restroom that allow you to get off the highway and recreate in a safe fashion.
Okay, so like if someone wanted to go bring a snowmobile or...
Some of the snow parks allow motorized recreation,
Okay.
and a lot of them don't. It just depends on which location you're going. You have to check to make sure that that's allowable at your location. So take Donner Summit, for example. That's one of our busiest units. That doesn't have motorized recreation within the park, but it does allow you safe parking to access the Castle Peak area, which is a huge, they do a lot of motorized recreation and backcountry skiing. There's the Forest Service helps manage some warming huts and stuff back there that you can get access to and rent those as needed.
Gotcha. So these are mostly in the kind of Sierra Nevada. It's not up north.
No. Like the furthest north one is Yuba Pass, and that's about 45 minutes north of Lake Tahoe-ish.
Okay.
That's primarily a snowmobile location. So that has a single vault restroom at the facility, parking, staging area to a trailhead, and you can go out and ride a variety of trails out there. There's 6, 7 right around the greater Tahoe area. So it's including Donner down to Iron Mountain. And, so you have Donner, which is on Highway 80. You got Blackwood Canyon, which is right on the east side of the lake. They're just in the Homewood area.
Yeah.
And then you have Taylor Creek, which is on like Camp Richardson area. And you got Echo Pass, which is another really busy one on Highway 50. And then you have Hope Valley, which is a super busy one for snowmobiles. So you can go out check out the Blue Lakes area. There's a tremendous amount of riding out there, killer riding. And then you have Carson Pass, Meese Meadow, and Iron Mountain.
Okay, sweet. And if you want to go visit one of these snow parks, do you need to purchase a pass or anything? Do you just show up?
No, you need to have a pass. So you can choose between a day pass or a season pass. The pass you purchase is good at any of the locations that you go to. There is no like guarantees that the park might be open. So sometimes at Donner, for instance, the park does fill up early, and we don't have a way to know how many people are going to be there. So it's just first come, first serve. They do close down from time to time throughout the day on a heavier weekend, and you have access to 2 other ones that you could go to. So Blackwood or Yuba Pass would be your 2 closest ones.
Gotcha. So if it just snowed and you're planning on heading up there to visit one of these places, just know that you might need to get there a little early if you want to find space.
Yeah. Get there early, be prepared, and just know where you're going so that way you have some options.
Sweet. All right. So, Nick, what do you do with the Forest Service or with the Shasta Avalanche Center? I know they're kind of one and the same thing, kind of different things.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's a U.S. Forest Service Mount Shasta Avalanche Center. We're one of, I wouldn't quote me on this, but 13, 14, 15 or so Forest Service avalanche centers in the United States. We're a relatively small avalanche center compared to some of the other ones, but we're located in Mount Shasta City, California, and I work as the director of the Avalanche Center.
Okay, so just as a little bit more background, did you grow up riding at all? Same with you, Josh. Did you grow up riding?
Yeah, so I grew up mostly riding snowmobiles. We started with our first ATV quad back in the late 80s, and then we graduated to snowmobiles. So I've been riding snowmobiles for 30-plus years now.
Where at?
All over the state. So I've actually been fortunate enough to ride most of the western states, but my family spent most of our time on the south side of Lassen, between Lassen and Susanville area, and so we've ridden all that country, ridden around Shasta a bunch, ridden in the Marble Mountains a couple of times.
Okay. Nick?
Yeah, I grew up snowmobiling. My parents, they love snowmobiles. We'd go up to Bucks Lake area a lot growing up. I grew
Great
up in
place.
Gray Eagle and then Lakes Basin area up by Sierra Buttes in that zone. My first snowmobile was a 1972 Polaris Colt, and that's how it all began.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And how long have you been working with the Forest Service?
23 years. I started when I was 19 as a seasonal ranger, and then I've been there ever since.
That sounds like a lot of people at the table here.
Yeah. It's been a wonderful job.
I know I started with state parks at 18. Paul, when did you?
Forest Service, I was 21.
Yeah.
Yeah, worked there for like 17 years. Yeah.
Oh, geez, I was the late bloomer then. I didn't realize that, recreation was an industry I could get into as far as a line of work. I thought, I'd end up doing some construction management or something like that. And then I got introduced to somebody that I'm sure you'll have on at some point, Sky Zaffarana with BLM.
Yeah.
And was like, you mean they're going to pay me to go out and do this stuff? Like, we can go build trails and ride sleds and go wheeling? Heck yeah, where do I sign up?
Same thing happened to me. In the Midwest, there wasn't much public land, and I realized in college that these types of areas exist in the West.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Oh God. I mean, it sounds like most of us, right? Like when I found out that I could go just work outside and hike all day, it sounded like a good deal to me. So
Yeah, game on.
yeah, let's go. So Nick, on a day-to-day basis, what are you doing at the Avalanche Center?
Yeah, day to day at the Avalanche Center. So we issue daily avalanche, snow, weather, and avalanche forecasts every day of the winter. So December 1st through about mid-April, we've got a team of myself plus 3 guys, and we are working to issue avalanche forecasts. That really is comprised of 3 things. In the field observations, so we go out in the field, we take a look at the snow, we dig pits, we make observations. Second, we have a robust network of weather stations, so real-time weather information, snow depth, wind, temperature, all that, and then future weather models. So, anything that you can access online, lots of weather models to look at. So between our observations, our real-time weather data, and then weather models, we cook up a weather forecast, and we put those out every day by 7 a.m.
So what time are you getting up to do all this work, Nick? I know that answer, but the audience might want to hear.
We get up really early. On the days where the forecast is a little more complex and we might have a little bit more writing to do, I'll get up at 3 or 4 in the morning to start that process. On a day where the danger's low and maybe not so much going on out there, it takes a little less time. But it takes a couple hours to, put together a well thought out and well-written forecast.
How cold is it at 3 in the morning?
It's funny, yeah. So the first thing I do before I start writing the forecast is I just go outside and just see what's happening. It's cold a lot of times, but you can be in your house and you get up and you just sit behind your computer and start writing your forecast. And I've done this before where you finish your forecast, you didn't go outside, you walk outside and conditions are different than maybe just by walking out and seeing what's happening out there. I go outside first thing every morning.
So are you out riding sleds pretty much every day?
A combination of snowmobiles and skis, sometimes snowmobiles and skis. Yeah, it's a combo.
Okay, all right. When you're putting together a forecast and you're looking at all of the different things, what's like step 1 through kind of your process? Where are you really starting after you walk outside in the morning and feel what temperature it is outside and kind of look at what's going on?
Yeah, with regards to writing the forecast, step 1 is weather. Weather drives the avalanche danger. So what is the weather doing is huge. Is it snowing? Is it not snowing? Recent new snow is like bullseye information. How much new snow are we getting? But largely, when we're writing the forecast that morning, most of what we're going to put down is already sort of formulated in our head from the previous day's information that we gathered. And then, what the weather that day is looking like, that obviously plays a big part. Yeah, I hope does that kind of answer your
Yeah,
question?
so it's kind of like a continuation of a story like each day.
You nailed it. That's what I tell the guys. I just it's a continuation of the story. Day 1, we start the story, and whoever does the forecast the next day, you're just picking up on that story. Is the danger increasing? Is it decreasing? Yeah, what's evolving.
Gotcha. And so when you're looking at the snow to kind of determine danger, what are the things that you're looking at? What is some of the stuff as a writer that you're wanting to be kind of paying attention to?
Yeah, the classic things are the 5 red flags of avalanche danger. And the first one on there is recent avalanches. So that is, Mother Nature's neon flashing sign that other avalanches are possible. If you see recent avalanches, that is a telltale sign that another avalanche could be possible. You might see an avalanche, and it's important to determine, is it old or new? And old avalanches tend to be a little bit fuzzy. They're melted out. They just kind of look dull and not quite as crisp. The lines are not as crisp as if that thing fractured freshly. So recent avalanches is a big one. The other one that I just kind of mentioned is recent new snow. So how much new snow is falling overnight or how much new snow is expected to fall during the day. Wind blowing snow is a really important one. You know, snow may not be falling from the sky, but wind is extremely effective at moving snow around in the mountains. Fourth one is, you know, shooting cracks or wumping. So when we're out in the snow skiing or snowmobiling, we're looking for shooting cracks in the snow. We will use small little test slopes as kind of the canary in the coal mine. So slopes of non-consequence where you can ski across the top or snowmobile across the top and just see what happens. It's a good indicator. And then the last one is rain on snow or warming related events, more of a springtime issue where you might get some fresh snow and then rain on top of that, and that can cause the snow to lose cohesion too. So those 5 red flags are really kind of what we're looking for. Those are like the really crucial indicator signs of instability in the snowpack.
Okay. And so as a writer, those are kind of the big ones that you're looking at as just like before you walk out the door, you're wanting to probably check the forecast, but also when you're out on the mountain. Is that the kind of stuff that you're looking for when you're out there, Josh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, fair enough. I do have to ask, what was the other word used when you talked about cracks? Was it womping?
Yeah, wumping.
Wumping?
Yeah. Good go back. Wumping is, in short, the snowpack settling, and it's audible. You'll hear it. You'll be, if you're on a snowmobile, it's much more difficult to hear. But if you're skiing, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, it can even happen in a flat meadow. But basically, somewhere in the snowpack, you've got a weak layer, and there's air trapped in that snowpack. And when that weak layer collapses, it lets out an audible whoomph. Sometimes you'll see the snowpack even settle. You may even actually feel it a little bit. But it's when you hear it, you'll know it. The hair on the back of your neck stands up. And basically, if you hear a whoomph, you just triggered an avalanche. If you're in a meadow, obviously that snow is not going anywhere. But if you trigger that same weak layer on a slope steeper than 30 degrees, you're going to get an avalanche.
Can you not have an avalanche on a less steep slope?
Correct. So slopes less than 30 degrees, avalanches are not possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That doesn't mean so. One thing leads to another here, but I don't know if you want me to go on.
No, continue.
Yeah. So, you might be on a 15-degree slope, but I think it's an important point that you could still be in avalanche terrain if there is steeper slopes above you.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. And maybe you can't necessarily trigger the avalanche from down below, or can you?
It is possible. It's called a remote trigger, and that does happen in our snow climate here in the maritime snow climate, the Sierras and Shasta and, the areas we're talking about. It's not as common as the more continental snowpacks, Utah, Colorado, where they get persistent weak layers and more remote triggers.
You used, what was it,
Maritime
snow climate? What does that mean in terms of the snow itself?
Maritime snow climate is wet. We get a lot of snow, big, heavy, wet flakes, deep snowpack, and in general, warmer temperatures.
I believe the layman term is Sierra cement.
The
There you
name,
go, yeah.
the name of our episode here.
Yeah, gotcha.
Sierra Cement.
Sierra cement,
All right.
Shasta plaster.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So it's just the really dense, wet,
It's
heavy
thick,
snow.
wet, heavy stuff.
And out the further east you get, the lighter it gets.
Correct. So you've probably heard the cold smoke of some of the more continental snowpacks where it's much drier snow, not as deep, but very light, fine quality.
Gotcha. So something closer to powder.
Yeah. Hey, we get powder too.
How long does our powder last?
I was just gonna say, lately especially, if you don't get the powder right away, you don't get the powder because it just turns to crust or whatever. The good old California sun cooks it, and
Yeah.
It's done for.
Yeah, the stuff out east, you can pick up a handful and just blow on it, and it'll blow right out of your hand.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Not happening here.
No.
No.
As someone who's only lived in California and California snow conditions, that thought is really weird to me.
Yeah.
That snow can like blow to that extent.
Blow
It's
it,
like
drift.
It's
yeah.
like sand.
Yeah.
Snow has a lot of different properties. It really is an incredible substance. And yeah, the upside to our snowpack, while we may not get the cold smoke, our snowpack is generally safer in general. We yeah, without
Gotcha.
elaborating too much.
You're forecasting. Are there people out there in the national forest doing any kind of avalanche mitigation? As someone who grew up in Truckee, I grew up around a lot of the ski resorts, and obviously they're always out there with you could hear it at 3, 4 in the morning with the explosives, making sure that that they're triggering all the avalanches before people are on the mountains. Is that happening in, your average national forest area? Not necessarily.
No, no avalanche mitigation on national forest lands.
Unless under a permit with the ski resort, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So if it's a ski resort, Tahoe, they certainly do that. Up at the Mount Shasta Ski Park, they do not. They don't have any avalanche terrain in bounds there. You might hear people say the side country. So some ski resorts have access gates that access out of bounds, and the side country is the back country. There's no mitigation activity going on those slopes.
Gotcha. Okay. So you kind of talked about the 5 red flags. You said that you go out and dig pits. What are those? What are we digging for?
Yeah, a good question. So to the general user, you're on the snow. You look at the surface of the snow, and that's all you see. But down beneath the surface of the snow, you have layers. And some storms are wet, some storms are drier. Some you'll get a period of clear weather, and you get crusts, and so you get this sort of stratigraphy in the snowpack. And within those layers, weak layers can linger. And so our job is to dig in the snow. We're not digging all the time. You may not need to dig some days, but some days you might. And we're going to dig a pit, and we create nice clean walls. We look at those layers. We do different stability tests to help discern the stability of the snowpack. And that's all information that we're just kind of putting in the old brain bin and helping us, determine the avalanche danger and write the forecast. So these pits we dig them all over the place. One pit is not the answer to the avalanche risk of the day. We can talk about spatial variability, and we've talked about how the snow has many different properties. It might be different. You might dig here and it's different over there. And so we're trying to get as wide of sampling as we can on a given day with, the time that we have.
Gotcha. Okay. What does a stability test look like? So you said you're digging out a pit, you've got clean walls. What are you just looking at what did you call it, the stratigraphy of the snow?
Yeah, looking at the layers, the stability tests, there's several of them, and they are, one of the ones we use a lot is called the extended column test, and you'll isolate a column of snow 30 centimeters by 90 centimeters, so it's like a long rectangle, and on one side of this block, with your shovel on the block, you tap on it progressively harder, so you'll do 10 taps from the wrist, 10 taps from the elbow, 10 taps from the shoulder. And the idea is that you're progressively loading this isolated block with more stress. And so if it fails within 1 to 10 wrist taps, that's pretty unstable. If it, fails on 25, which is, 5 taps from the shoulder, you've gone through your wrist, you've gone through your elbow taps, and now you're whacking away from, your shoulder. That's more stable. Again, it is not the end-all, be-all, but it's just a piece of information that we use to help us out.
Gotcha. Just another tool. Okay. Who should be kind of paying attention to all this information as it's coming out?
Everybody should be paying attention to this. Who recreates in snow-covered mountains? So snowshoers skiers, snowmobilers, cross-country skier, anybody who recreates in the mountains, in
Gotcha.
the winter.
And you said your forecasts come out daily. In just kind of as an idea, how often are you guys having to go out and like potentially rescue people who get stuck in an avalanche that they may not have been aware of was a possibility?
Yeah, not that often, which is good. The majority of our rescues are climbing related, so in the springtime, April, May, June is when we get the majority of our rescues. However, we do get rescues in the winter. Most of the time, it's snowmobilers that either have crashed or broken down or stuck and just can't get themselves out. That's kind of the majority of our winter rescues are just unprepared.
Gotcha. Okay. This is always a good time when you mention broken down vehicles. Always make sure to do like a T-clock, check your vehicle before you leave and then after you get out, just so you know what's going on. Just as an aside for everybody, you should be doing that on your dirt bike, side-by-side, ATV, and snowmobile. It's not limited to just one.
So Nick, you're saying people are unprepared. I think, I don't know, this has been a while ago, you were on the cover of Popular Mechanics magazine. Tell us a little bit about that and some of the things people should have to be prepared to prevent these things from happening.
Yeah. You want me to talk about how the cover came to be, or just?
Yeah, that's a good. That's a quick good story part because we all laughed about it, but I think we secretly were jealous of your glamour shot.
Yeah, I'm still living that one down. So the magazine Popular Mechanics, they submitted an email or sent an email to the region or the forest that they were looking for people with jobs that were where tough jobs, survival, winter survival, rescue, like blah, blah, blah. So somehow this email filtered down into my inbox, and I replied and said, yeah, this is what I do for my job. And they replied, said, sounds great. And they sent out a photographer and an interviewer, and we did a little pre-interview, and then they came out and did a full interview, and we did the full, photography shoot. I was right off the road and, sprinkling snow on my shoulder, make it look gnarly. And, I'm all in my garb, and I got my skis on my back and the ropes and whatever. And so that all happened, and then it was radio silent. I thought it was just going to be kind of an article in a magazine. Didn't hear for a while, months. And then my wife and I, we were out camping, no cell service. We're coming back from the weekend, back into cell service. I'm driving. She's surfing Facebook, and she goes, oh my gosh, and she holds up her phone, and my mom had posted it on her Facebook page. And there's my cover, or my face on the cover, 2.2 million copies across the land. And all of a sudden, my phone started dinging like crazy, like friends in airports across the country, like, dude, I just saw you on the newsstand.
That's awesome.
But there's some good info in that, right?
Yeah, the article was it was a little cheesy, but
yeah,
there's some good stuff. And yeah, preparedness, it really is important. We're constantly stressing to play the what if game, especially on snowmobiles, any motorized equipment in the winter. You can get out there really fast, and like you might not be hurt, but you might have to hang out for a while your friend goes and gets help or gets gas or a part or whatever. And so the 10 essentials, you can read about them. It's just some stuff that you should carry that can, may not make for an amazing night out, but it'll make a survivable night out should you have to bivvy. And so things like fire starter, that's a huge one. A headlamp, extra clothes, a bivvy sack, extra food, water. These 10 essentials will change depending upon what your activity is. 10 essentials in the desert might be different than the 10 essentials in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a time-tested, kit can make the difference. For winter, for me, a bivy sack, a big puffy jacket, and a good fire starter kit are like some things that really are
Oh,
Quick little Google search.
I showed.
yes.
I told Nick.
that's
all
my
right,
blue steel.
Looks like it. It's
clamor
like,
shot.
yeah.
He's really just standing on the side of I-5.
Well, I was on the side of the Everett Memorial Highway, and friends were driving by like, "Meh, meh, what are you doing?" It was pretty funny.
Oh my God, that's pretty good. I also saw recently, just because I have to bring this up, did you rescue a goose?
I rescued a goose, yeah, just before Christmas.
We got to hear about
Yeah,
this too,
yeah.
man. A little bit.
Yeah, so yeah, rescuing animals is not our normal gig. We're usually dealing with people, but my partner and I, Eric Falconer, we were up there just on routine patrol, observations, and snowmobiling around, and you know the mountain is caked in snow. It's totally white, so anything that's not white shows up really well. And there's this dark object on the snow up at 10,000 feet. We were down much lower, and so it caught my attention. Snowmobiled up to it, and it was this goose that was just crusted over. His whole head was crusted in ice, wings battered, and we were like, wow, like, you know, I'm an animal lover and like to help, and I don't know, boys will be boys. We're like, let's help it. First thing we need to do is catch it, and so we tried to catch it, and we were having trouble, and it was kind of flopping around, tried to fly, couldn't fly, tumbled its way down the hill. Like, all right, Eric, I'm gonna try one more time, and I'd get on the sled, ride down to it, kind of sneak up on it, and I was like, I'm just gonna run up behind it and dive on top of it, and I caught it, dude. And I was like, I surprised myself, honestly. I was like, what do we do with it now? Like, well, I guess we take it down the mountain. So, like, oh man, this thing's gonna flop all over my arms as I start the snowmobile. It's like, well, we'll try. And I got on the sled and I tucked it under my arms, tucked its wing under, kind of like a football. Electric start sled's pretty nice. Started her up, and it didn't fuss or fight, man. And I was unbelievable.
It was warm.
It was warm, and dude, it was kind of like I started to feel just that. I get all touchy-feely here, just that connection of spirit a little bit. Like it, you know, the hand of God was like helping this goose, and it knew it. It just relaxed, and all the way down to the parking lot. And then we took it in the truck down to a pond in town and let it go. So.
Got all the ice off of it, and
Yeah, I kind of just left it alone on the mountain, but then once we got into the truck, Eric, my partner, he has geese and ducks as pets, so he's pretty comfortable with them. And as it started to warm up and de-ice, it got a little feisty, but he was able to manage, and we got
What a story.
we made it out without any geese bites.
Yeah. But it was a pretty memorable rescue. And yeah, just, you know, rescues, like I said, we do a lot of climbing rescues, not so many avalanche. That doesn't mean that avalanche rescues don't happen. We just don't get a lot of them in Shasta, but certainly across the states, you know, I don't know, the average is maybe 20 or 30 a year fatalities that occur in avalanches.
Have you ever gotten stuck out in the snow, Josh, on any of your sleds before?
I've broken sleds and had to be towed back. I've never had to leave one and come back for it. We were able to always, you know, tow it out. So we always, I guess, be prepared for whatever. And, you know, whether it's ropes or bungees or something, we were always able to, you know, self-extricate and get back. You know, some creative towing maneuvers coming back sometimes. I think the most memorable one for me was I wrapping my sled around a tree going pretty fast, and sled still ran, but we basically pulled it up on the seat of the other sled and rode double out, and then had to have somebody pull it out. Mm-hmm. And then we've been in the back of like the Blue Lakes area, so that Hope Valley. We were back there one year for a CNSA convention. That's the California Nevada Snowmobile Association that used to be really big. Somebody had a new sled and ended up losing it and wadded it up, sent it down a big hill, it tumbled, like the skis came off. It was a mess. Like that took the better part of a day. I didn't get to go out much riding that day because I think my clutch decided to let go about 100 yards outside of the parking lot.
Oof. Well, so Nick, what are some of your tips for staying safe before you like even leave the house?
Yeah, I think tips for staying safe before you leave the house. I mean, it starts in the morning by, as I mentioned earlier, going outside. What's the weather doing? Reading the avalanche forecast is the next step with, your cup of coffee. Dive into that thing and just kind of see what's going on out there. You should have a pretty good idea of what the avalanche danger is, what your travel plan should be for the day, and how things. You should have a pretty good idea of what to expect before you even get on the snow. So, driving to the trailhead, looking up at the mountains, looking for those recent avalanches, looking for crown lines, looking at the road cuts along the road to the trailhead. You get to the trailhead, you talk to some sledders or you talk to some people that have been out already, so that before you're even on your, tool of choice for recreating in the snowy mountains, you have an idea of where you need to watch out. What's really cool with snowmobiles is, you don't need a steep slope to have fun. Skiers need a slope. Snowmobiles can play in the meadows all day long and still have a really great time. So it's all about terrain. It's a classic adage: when the snowpack is in question, terrain is the answer. You've got to be able to identify avalanche terrain in order to stay safe out there.
So, stick to your skill level.
Stick to your skills. Be honest with your skill level. It's tough, especially with snowmobiles. They invoke adrenaline. Like, you've got, especially the newer sleds, you've got a ton of power underneath your thumb, and that's easily accessed.
Yeah, you can easily outride your skill set.
Yeah. You're out with your bros and everyone's stoked, and you can just get into trouble in a heartbeat. And so just those tactical pauses to just like stop, regroup, talk about things is crucial to staying safe out there.
Nick, is there any type of training people could do to help with their skill levels or something like that?
Tons of training, and Josh,
Awesome.
chime in here. There's the education path for avalanche awareness. What we're talking about here is kind of a recreational track or a professional path. So you can choose which path you want to go down. For a lot of us, it's going to be the recreational path. You can start with an avalanche awareness course. You can take a rescue course, and then there's courses beyond that. Avalanche.org is a great place to suss that out. They have an education tab, and then courses are offered all over the place. There's lots of opportunities for training. Yeah.
There is. You just got to, I think, do your research and be prepared again.
Yeah.
There's sensing a theme with winter recreation of
Totally.
preparedness.
How about like for moto and quad, there's lots of like skill building type of training. How about that for sleds or like snow bikes? Does that exist? I'm not too much into that world. I don't see it. I don't hear about it, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
There's a few of them. I know that on the professional level, I know that there's a couple of post-certified courses more for the law enforcement folks. The state was doing some recreational snowmobile, like kind of ASI stuff with the ATVs. They have some basic stuff, but not a whole lot that's like really formulated because it's weather driven, and the weather here is pretty unpredictable as far as what we're going to get from year to year, location to location. So that makes it a little bit more tough.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think just, time behind bars. You just got to get out and ride, be honest with your skill set, and find a mentor, find somebody that's better than you, go riding with them.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest things is definitely ride with a friend because you can ride farther in 10 minutes than you can walk in a day. So like that's something that we always lived by when we were riding quite a bit. And then, just travel in packs, one is none and two is one. So a minimum of two people with you riding, and have a plan and know where you're going and be prepared. But like you're saying, that the time behind bars, like there's no replacement for that experience. Like it just takes time, and then all of a sudden it's just going to click. Like the light bulb's going to go off. It's like, oh, okay, if I do this, then this happens. And like just the slightest little like weight shift on a machine makes the biggest difference. Like it's one of the sports where the smaller riders have a harder time with some of the stuff because they don't have quite the weight. The movement's got to be way more exaggerated and over the top to get it to do the same thing that somebody like myself, it's just a pivot on a heel. And
It's hard for me, but I don't have a lot of behind the bars on a sled. So,
But I mean, you come back with that motocross experience. It's really not, you take some of that knowledge and then you throw a lot of it away, and then you pull on some of your other resources, and then it's like, okay, this makes sense. And like, I'd never stick my foot out, but that's just because I don't ride a motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing. Like, you don't ever want to stick your foot out,
on a sled.
But
yeah.
on a sled, on a bike, it's a totally different thing.
I like one day at the office, he said it's sort of like power sliding a quad and riding a jet ski at the same time.
Yeah, the adage I think I usually use is it's like a quad and a jet ski had a weird baby, and that's a snowmobile.
That's snowmobile. What do you think, Nick? You like that?
That's good, yeah. Another one is the snow conditions. Like, the snow will change just like a bike or a moto.
Mm-hmm.
What you're riding on affects how the machine handles big time. Just learning all that, it just takes time, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, because like the first thing in the morning, as soon as you leave the house on a ride, like, it's nice and crunchy, it's crisp, it's different. You get a little bit more. It's just a different crisp, and the day warms up. Afternoon, it's warmer. It's a little bit more slushy. In the morning, the sled will like kind of dead hook, but in the evening, like, or afternoon, it gets slushy, and you could be leaning all the way over, and you got one of your toes in the wheel well, in the footwell, and you're just doing everything you can do to crank that machine over, and it's still going straight, and you're on your side, and it just nope, we're good.
Yep, different conditions, right? Yeah, yep.
All right. Any last words that you have of wisdom for the people that are out there in this kind of terrain?
Well, as we've been talking about, being prepared is a theme here. What we certainly don't want to ever discourage a grand adventure. It might be a little overwhelming for people, especially if they're newer getting into some of these activities. There's a lot of barriers to entry: avalanche danger, snowmobiles, trailering, loading, unloading. Like, don't be afraid. It's a hell of a lot of fun. With a little bit of research and preparation, you can do all this stuff safely and do it for a lifetime. And so, yeah, a lot of resources out there as far as avalanche safety goes. Avalanche.org is really a one-stop shop for the education piece we talked about, and also for avalanche danger and photos and all that. Yeah.
Are there other avalanche centers in California that people should be aware of for their location?
Absolutely. So Avi.org has a map of the United States, and all the avalanche centers are on the map. Sierra Avalanche Center is a big one. Eastern Sierra Avalanche Center. So 3 in California: Eastern Sierra, Tahoe, and us. If you're going to some mountains that don't have an avalanche forecast, can still read the forecast nearest to those mountains. Storm patterns and avalanche problems can still be the same or similar. Yeah, just be prepared. Play the what if game. What if my machine breaks down? What am I going to do? What if I get in an avalanche? Am I confident to rescue my partner? Just kind of go do some mental exercises. And
I think those are great words, not just for people on sleds. I think that goes for pretty much every off-highway vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go out and play in the winter, you need to know kind of where you're going. You need to do a little bit of homework. Just know about where you want to go, think of the things that are there and what's around there, what you might want to see, and share with somebody before you leave, because if you go out and nobody knows you're gone, it's going to take a while for them to find you, and especially if they don't have any idea where you're at. A lot of times, some of these places, cell phones don't work, so you can't rely on that little device in your pocket. You need to be prepared some more. Just a little homework goes a long ways.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Like, with the batteries die, right? Paper maps are great. A backup communicator like a Spot device or a Garmin or a sat phone, and then your probe and your beacon. Those are all just kind of some things as well I would want to bring with me.
Yeah, the technology for that stuff has come so far.
Yeah, we haven't talked about radios, I don't think, but I always have a little radio with my partner out snowmobiling or even skiing. A lot of accidents and issues and mishaps boil down to communication. You've heard it a million times, like, oh yeah, our communication. It's true. A lot of incidents boil down to just poor communication.
Yeah, Nick, and from our history at the Forest Service, we know that's been pounded in our brain with fire resources for our whole career. So
Totally.
communication is key.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
there's a lot of good radios out there.
Yep.
And thanks for mentioning the beacon shovel probe, Paul. We haven't talked a lot about that, but those are crucial items for avalanche safety. Not just having them, but knowing how to use them.
Definitely. I know those from just my ski days. So, and I know that there's new equipment out there too. There's, those like airbag backpacks that'll help kind of lift you out of the slide and all that. And
Yeah, airbag packs are great. A lot of sledders have them these days. They work. Essentially it's the big chip theory. If you have a bag of chips and you shake the bag of chips, all the big ones come to the top and all the little ones go to the bottom. So you're the big chip. If you're sitting on your snowmobile having lunch at the bottom of the slope, and you get plowed over by an avalanche, it's not going to work. But if you are able to get jumbled about and sorted within this avalanche, you pull your airbag, you will rise to the top with enough sorting. Yes, it can get popped by a tree, or you can hit a tree yourself. Trauma, is possible, but they do work well.
all right, sweet. Well, thank you both for being here today. We're going to move on to our last section now, community connections. So this week's question that we got, Paul, is someone just got a brand new Razor for Christmas that they wanted to take out riding, and they've paid the registration, but they don't have their registration sticker yet in the mail. Do they need to wait for those stickers before they go out, or can they just go out now?
I've always, whenever I worked Forest Service doing some type of patrol and enforcement, as long as you have proof that it's been paid, something from the DMV, you're good to go. A lot of times, even if you don't have the sticker on your bike yet, it can be ran and it'll be shown that that VIN number has been paid for. But again, if you do it online, I always take a screenshot on my phone of the registration, and that's kind of the way I've done it. Having the bill of sale with you and any other type of paperwork proving that it's yours is always a good start. You have any other info, Kevin, on that?
I don't think so.
No.
Usually they give you a little printout.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Keep this temporary.
a temporary
Yeah.
thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always used to keep those in a little Ziploc baggie with registration, just the registration and proof of insurance kind of stuff. I know it sounds weird for a snowmobile, but they
Yep.
do offer that.
So another trick I've done with the paper stuff they give you, like put it in a Ziploc bag and tape it underneath the seat of your motorcycle. It keeps it from getting wet when you power wash or whatever you do, or you're riding through mud holes, and then you just have it. So, yeah, that's a good question from the community.
Sweet. All right. Well, this has been the Beyond the Blacktop podcast, brought to you by California State Parks. If you have a question you would like answered on a future episode, please reach out to us on Facebook at California State Parks Off-Highway Motor Vehicle Recreation Division, on Instagram at CA State Parks OHV, or email us at ohvinfo@parks.ca.gov with the subject Beyond the Blacktop. This podcast is copyrighted by California State Parks. No part of this podcast may be reproduced or distributed without the written permission of California State Parks and its districts or divisions.